word that's in there, but the reality is the subsidies were put in.
I call it Obamacare. I give it the real name that it deserves. The person who actually tried to fix our broken healthcare system that's given millions of people access to quality care.
That is given that family you were talking about earlier now $25,000.
No, that's why we actually. Let me ask you this question: Who repealed the subsidies? What bill?
Which subsidy? Are you talking about the current subsidies that are going to expire?
Yes.
These were temporary subsidies.
Who repealed them? Who did not extend them? Who did it?
They just weren't made permanent. They just weren't made permanent.
The Biden budget.
In today's video, Bakari Sellers destroys Peter Meijer in a heated debate on NewsNight with Abby Phillip, where things get tense as Bakari Sellers fires back at Peter Meijer over the GOP's handling of the government shutdown. Sellers breaks down how real Americans, from federal employees to working families, are the ones paying the price, while politicians play blame games on Capitol Hill. He exposes the double standard behind the Republican talking points and brings the focus back to what really matters: people's jobs, healthcare, and livelihoods. So let's dive in and watch how Bakari Sellers shuts down Peter Meijer on NewsNight with Abby Phillip.
I don't know if they'll be able to legally do this. And by the way, we should note, this is a law that was passed in 2019 when Donald Trump was president. And Peter, by the way, welcome to the show. This is your first time joining us here. But new reporting from CNN tonight that I think is important here. This is what a source in the White House says. There's an increasing acknowledgement within the West Wing that the politics of reductions in force at a moment when we know our message on the shutdown is the better one would be better later. Said one official. It's the idea that if we give it more time, it'll be because Democrats truly forced our hand and left us no choice. And we don't want to appear gleeful about people losing their jobs. Is Trump appearing gleeful and also perhaps vindictive in this moment?
No, I don't think there's any glee, there's any vindictiveness. I will say, Russell Vought, he's Russell the professional. This is not a guy you want to mess around with. You know, there are certainly folks in the orbit that are just in it for the TV appearances. That is not Russ Vought. And so the idea that he can go out and start to do what Doge didn't, I think is incredibly tempting. And the longer Senate Democrats refuse to come back to the table, the longer they want to keep this shutdown going because they think maybe at some point their weird healthcare messaging is going to get over the mimetic power of the sombrero. I don't see it happening.
First of all, it was fun. It was decently illogical. I mean, Russ Vought, for people who are watching, is an unelected bureaucrat. Nobody came up here to elect him. Nobody cast a ballot.
Elected bureaucrats,
I'm going to finish my thoughts as well. So he's an unelected bureaucrat who's going around allegedly finishing the job that Elon Musk wasn't able to do, which I think most viewers have a great deal of heartburn about, if not even find laughable. That's first. But second, it's not some magical healthcare initiative that's going to rain like manna from heaven above. The fact is, we know that 15 million people are going to be kicked off of healthcare. We know that rural hospitals are shutting down. We also know. Wait, we're going to finish sentences. We also know that in a couple of weeks, we're going to see premiums not only double but triple in some circumstances. That's not something that we can push out. That's going to happen November 1st. If you are a middle-class family making $85,000 a year, your premiums are going to skyrocket to about $25,000 a year on Republican watch. And so when we're talking about ACA subsidies, when we're talking about Medicaid, this is not just some fictitious issue so Russell Vought can go around and act like he's the grand wizard. No, this is making sure that people have access to quality health care. Period.
So Obamacare is not working, it sounds like. No. I mean, because this is what we're talking about.
How much of that premium increase is because of the expiration of the temporary, couldn't even get Democrats to make this permanent, temporary
Actually,
tax
there's a conversation right now to do with
$40.
It's actually right now, it's about year to year. And I wish both of you all would just take the advice of the great Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's the one who's actually making.
Alright, so this exchange between Peter Meijer and Bakari Sellers gets heated fast. And honestly, Bakari's making all the sense here. You can tell he's tired of the same recycled talking points that ignore what's actually happening to everyday people. This government shutdown isn't some DC game. It's real lives being disrupted. We've got federal employees missing paychecks, air traffic controllers and TSA workers under extreme pressure, and families struggling to make ends meet because politics has taken priority over people. Bakari brings up something most folks don't realize: the expiration of those Affordable Care Act subsidies. That's a huge deal. If Congress doesn't act, premiums could skyrocket. like literally from $12,000 to $25,000 a year for middle-class families. And that's not exaggeration. That's what independent analysts are warning about. Republicans had every opportunity to make those subsidies permanent, and they didn't. Meanwhile, rural hospitals are shutting down and millions risk losing coverage. When Meijer tries to paint this like it's about Democrats refusing to negotiate, Bakari fires back with facts, pointing out that unelected bureaucrats like Russell Vought are making decisions that could devastate working Americans. It's not about left or right at this point, it's about accountability. Sellers reminds us this isn't abstract policy, it's about people's livelihoods, and that's what makes his argument hit harder. He's not just debating, he's standing up for the families who always end up paying the price for Washington's dysfunction.
The most sense. Look at the camera. We know what we can do right now. If we want the shutdown to stop, and this is what Democrats have been saying, if we want the shutdown to end, come to the negotiating table. Let's bring back the ACA subsidies, and let's make sure people don't lose health care.
Let me read what Marjorie Taylor Greene, just for people who don't know what he's talking about. Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote this. I'm going to go against everyone on this issue because when the tax credits expire this year, my own adult children's insurance premiums for 2026 are going to double, along with all the wonderful families and hardworking people in my district. She continues, not a single Republican in leadership talked to us about this or has given us a plan to help Americans deal with their health insurance premiums doubling.
And I said this the last time. Everybody who is on, the exchange, even those of us who do not receive subsidies, received a notice from the insurance company saying, because of government changes, your premiums are likely to go up. So check what's going to happen. And so I think there's a lot of people with a lot of angst. And I just look at the tone deafness of Donald Trump is in his Saddam Hussein gold gilded Oval Office saying, yeah, we're not going to pay them. We're going to furlough them and not going to pay them, when there's so many people in America who live paycheck to paycheck, who work for the federal government, and even that isn't enough to pay for their bills.
At the end of the day, I mean, this day of the shutdown was different from the others because it was like doubling down on pain for Americans. And I just wonder how, in terms of the optics, which is what Anna's talking about, you have the president saying, oh, we may not pay, the janitors, these relatively low-wage people, and even some higher-wage people who work in the federal government.
In fact, that's his modus operandi. Anybody who's
worked
for him in construction will tell you that. And then on top
of that is the underlying health care issue, which we know, according to the polling, Americans want to be addressed. They want those subsidies to be continued.
Okay, well, we have basically three different topics going at the same time. But if we want to talk about the health care side,
unfortunately, that's the sad part about this shutdown. It's a bunch of different issues all at once, and people in Congress are elected to deal with them. So
I'll just say this. So let's talk about the Medicare and the Medicaid and the insurance costs, right? The reason this is happening, they have not said they're not going to keep the subsidies going. That can be happening in November. That's a separate issue from the shutdown. The shutdown has to do with the fact that they changed they tweaked the language because California and other states, there are 5 other states that are giving undocumented illegal immigrants health insurance and health care.
The formula is not tweaked. Just to be clear, Hal, the formula is not tweaked for those states. Hold on. This is super important. The formula that you're talking about that changes the reimbursement is not targeted at those states. It applies across the board.
I get that.
And so hospitals, no matter whether you're in a red state or a blue state, whether you provide health insurance to immigrants or not, you are affected by the change in the formula.
And that law was signed in 1986 by Ronald Reagan.
California was using a loophole in the law to provide massive amounts of federal dollars to illegals.
That may be the case, but just to be clear, the change that was made by this Republican Congress applies to all.
This part of the debate got real, and I've got to say, Bakari Sellers and Abby Phillip are completely on point here. Hal Lambert keeps trying to spin this healthcare mess into an immigration issue, and that's such a tired deflection. The shutdown, the premium hikes, the hospital closures, none of that has to do with undocumented immigrants. It's about Congress refusing to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies and playing politics with people's lives. Let's be honest, Americans are hurting. Even Marjorie Taylor Taylor Greene, one of the most hardline Republicans, admitted that her own family's insurance premiums are about to double. That says a lot. When someone like her starts agreeing with Democrats about healthcare costs, you know the problem has gone way beyond party lines. And Abby makes a really good point. This shutdown doesn't just impact politicians sitting comfortably in Washington. It's the janitors, TSA agents, air traffic controllers, the everyday federal workers who live paycheck to paycheck. They're the ones feeling the pain first. The fact that the White House is even floating the idea of not paying these people, that's not fiscal conservatism, that's cruelty. Meanwhile, Republicans keep talking about illegal immigrants getting benefits. But here's the truth. Only a handful of states, like California, fund that themselves, not through federal Medicaid dollars. What Lambert ignores is that the formula change Congress made affects every state, including red ones. So this isn't about California gaming the system, it's about Washington creating chaos and calling it policy. Sellers and Phillip aren't just arguing, they're exposing how the GOP keeps shifting blame instead of fixing the real issue, making healthcare affordable for working Americans. Because at the end of the day, it's not about ideology, it's about whether families can afford to see a doctor or pay their bills. And that's exactly why their argument hits home.
States. So California might be disproportionately affected, but other states are affected too. And some of those states are red states, some of those states are blue states.
Well, but the problem is that they're using Medicaid for illegals, and they're denying that they're doing it.
Do you have any argument?
Okay.
Do you have any argument that doesn't have like illegal in it? So let me ask you this question.
Let me ask
you this question. A family, good old white bread American family making $85,000, middle class, their premiums going up to $25,000. That make an argument about why we should not bring back ACA subsidies that does not utilize the word illegal.
I would like to fix the entire healthcare system. This healthcare system is broken. What you're talking about is just pumping more federal dollars into it. That's really what we're talking about here. And the system is broken, and it's broken because the government has taken it over.
The system is broken, but I don't understand why, Hal, you want to deal with the Medicaid issue, but not the premium issue. They're all part of this.
But the premium's not part of the
issue.
shutdown. The premium's not the issue with the shutdown.
Look,
we're making
the premium issue, just like the subsidy issue, are the two things that Democrats have put on the table. Now, I'm not saying that it's right that they put it on the table. I'm not saying that it's right that the government is shut down. I'm just saying that if those are the issues that they've put on the table that they want to negotiate on, both of them are on the table. One of them, frankly, I think is being completely misrepresented, including by you here in terms of the Medicaid subsidies. But the other one, there's clear public support for continuing those subsidies. And my question on Republicans is, are they going to be able to continue to pretend like that issue is not there for Americans? Because Americans know it's there. They want it to be addressed. And it sounds like in the White House, they're getting concerned that they're losing the messaging war on this.
No, there's clear public support to make healthcare affordable.
100%.
And the failure of the Affordable Care Act, we can call it the ACA to avoid the A word that's in there, but the reality is the subsidies were put in.
I call it Obamacare. I give it the real name that it deserves. The person who actually tried to fix our broken healthcare system.
Fair enough.
That's giving millions of people access to quality care.
That is giving that family you were talking about earlier now $25,000.
No, that's why we actually.
Premiums.
Let me ask you this question: Who
Sure.
repealed the subsidies?
What bill? What
Which
subsidy? Are you talking about the current subsidies that are going to expire?
Yes,
these were temporary subsidies.
Who repealed them? Who did not extend them? Who did it?
They just weren't made permanent. They just weren't made permanent.
And the Biden budget that, by the way, a bunch of Democrats supported. And you talk about Democrats coming back to the table in this case. Democrats don't need to come back to the table. They need to pass the budget they've passed 4 times in the past.
You can really feel the tension in this part of the debate. Bakari Sellers and Abby Phillip are pushing back hard, and for good reason. Because let's be real, these hosts, Peter Meijer and Hal Lambert, are dancing around the core issue here. Americans are getting crushed by healthcare costs, and instead of fixing it, Republicans keep playing political hot potato. Bakari's right. This isn't some Democrat gimmick like Lambert claims. It's basic math and basic humanity. When ACA subsidies expire, middle-class families making around $80K or $90K a year see premiums shoot up to $25,000. That's not an abstract number. That's rent, tuition, groceries, gone. And the GOP's response? Let's fix the entire healthcare system. Sure, but they've been saying that for over a decade without putting forward a serious alternative, and Abby nails it with the public support angle. Poll after poll shows that most Americans, even Republican voters, want healthcare subsidies to stay. They're tired of the political theater. People don't care whether it's called Obamacare or the ACA. They just want to be able to take their kids to the doctor without going bankrupt. What's wild is how Meijer tries to spin this into a Democrat shutdown. Like the GOP didn't literally vote down the same type of budget multiple times under Biden. This isn't about partisan blame, it's about accountability. Republicans are using the shutdown as leverage while pretending to care about working families. But the math doesn't lie. At the end of the day, Bakari and Abby are voicing what most Americans are thinking. This isn't about red or blue, it's about survival. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and it's long past time both parties stop using it as a bargaining chip. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.